And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the universe. It is I, John D, a.k.a. Too Much, and my wife,
Kanika,
better known as
too.
And we are doing Too Much Podcast. Welcome back to another wonderful episode about our life and our opinions on how we can get better as a relationship, as parents, as people, period. How you doing?
I'm fine.
I'm fine. You sure?
Yeah, I was just finished. Just swallow my tea. I'm fine.
So, I know I keep talking about this app, but I got a question for you. What is the hardest thing that you had to accept about your family? I'll let you think about it.
Thank you.
The hardest thing I spoke about this is that the generation before me, I realized that my aunts and uncles were not protected the way that our kids are protected or our current generation's kids.
What do you mean?
Like the adults only had so much information. Like my grandparents only knew so much. They believed in spanking that biscuit, like child abuse spanking that biscuit. And I was just like thinking about my grandmother's childhood and how difficult that was. And, you know, some of the things she talked about, I just don't think any child should have gone through that. But she ended up being a parent and she only knew what she knew. And I was a product of one of her kids and he was very heavy-handed. And as a man, you know, that's the way that he thought he was supposed to correct behaviors. And as a seasoned adult man, I realized that where I am in life, I don't have to do the things that they did because they were limited on information. And I have so much more information now where I can be a better parent. And I'm not saying that they weren't better parents because they were definitely better parents than the parenting that they got. But I had to understand that when I started to think about all of the butt whoopings I got, like, you know, when you get older, you're like, why did they whoop me? And you just start thinking about what they did and like what they could have done this. And it's like they only knew what they knew. And being a parent now made me realize how much I want to help my kids. And I'm like, as a parent, what parent wouldn't want to do that? The only way they wouldn't do it is if they didn't know how. But I don't know a parent's like, you know what? I'm about to leave this kid on stuck. Like even, you know, the fathers that don't participate, I know that there are a lot of reasons. You know, it's not just something like they just decided like, you know what, I want to have this stigma for the rest of my life of being a deadbeat father. But when you don't know how to do something, you won't do it. And I feel like when I learned about my parents, the way they grew up and then how their parents grew up, it made it a lot easier for me to be able to like, okay, I understand. But it was really hard for me to realize that my parents didn't know more than I did.
Well, I mean, but even imagine they in Dallas, they're going to grow up into parents and they'll be like, my parents just didn't know.
Oh, no, I get it.
I think we
but
all
I'm
are
just
growing.
Saying,
I mean, I think with every generation we're learning and we're growing.
I know. And well, it was just a hard pill to swallow because, you know, when you feel like, well, I've had the reflection of like, okay, I'm not where I wanted to be in life for like the last 10 years. Like, why am I not where I wanted to be? And it all boils down to I didn't know how to do it. And then when you say, why didn't you know how to do it? And you start thinking about the parenting you got or the influence in your environment. And you like, oh, but you know, you don't think like your parents didn't know. You just feel like they should have known. So that was like one of those eye-opening experiences. Like, okay, my parents did love me and they did the best they could with whatever they had. And that was one of those things where like, oh, okay. So that's the reason why I look at parenting so different now. I'm like thinking about what were other parents, what were they good at or what were they exposed to and try to incorporate that in our parenting. So just understanding that my parents and their parents only knew what they knew, and they did the best that they could. So it was just really hard, like, to just imagine how they grew up.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't like the way that I grew up, but it was way better than the way that they grew up. You know, and I know that I wouldn't want my kids to grow up the way that I grew up. So it's like, damn, they had it tough growing up, you know, and you can't put all that responsibility on parents that only had like 2 pages out of a 1,700 page book.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's interesting. You look at the individual level, and listening to you, I was like picking through my family and trying to like find where might we have the same ideas. But for my family, it's more like as a system, not necessarily what the individuals lacked, but how our family as a whole is impacted by a few. So my family is like overrun with women, very strong women. And we have a lot of men in our family as well, but our men tend to be quieter. They tend to be, doers, but not necessarily the conductors. Our women are much more conductors in our family. And there are a few women. Every year, my family is always trying to get this family reunion. We used to have a really, really big family reunion every year. And in the last, I want to say 10 years, maybe a little over 10 years, we have been trying to get back to that because we kind of broke apart when certain main pieces, our leading women passed away. We kind of broke apart. And I mean, when I say everybody just started going crazy, everybody was going crazy. And it lets you know how there were only a few women that were literally the pins that were holding this entire matrix together. And so we've been trying to get it back. And there's the hurdle we're trying to pull back together. The hurdle we're having is there's a lot of anger and resentment and just not liking or, separation or cliquish activity in our family. And like, if you think of your family as 5 generations, the beef or the toxicity of a particular person or people was maybe in generation 2. We're all the way at generation 5, and it's had a ripple effect of the number of cousins and family members that don't see each other. They don't interact, and they don't even know why they don't really interact. Oh, we don't mess with them like that. I imagine these women, how they were raised. We talk about women, how women can be catty or cliquish, or it's literally like when you deal with certain cousins on an individual level, you love them to death. But there's something that was like dropped in there, like some food coloring. All of them, they're beautiful people, but it's something in there that they don't even know that was in there that makes them standoffish, or they stay away from this group, but they don't really know why anymore because it's so far back, And it really has been hard to pull people back in because of things that they don't even really understand why it's like that. There are secrets that have come out that people understand, like, oh, okay, so, now I have beef because I never knew this. And I think that's with any family. I think that generations before us didn't talk. And I think I've said this before, like, I used to ask my mom questions. She'd be like, we didn't ask questions like that, so I don't know. Mom, what was this person like? Or why did we do this? I don't know. We didn't ask those questions. But now it comes out when you're talking to the elders. They say things that come to their remembrance, and they don't necessarily know that they're unearthing things. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. and this is what happened. And then you start, because you're listening, you're realizing that's why this group has kind of been separate from everybody else. Oh, so that's why these two cousins generally don't mess with each other. Oh, so that's why. But even your elders don't know that they're saying it. They're just recounting things. And because they weren't paying attention as they were kids, and they're seeing this stuff, I can see now the ripple effect generations down, because when they tell me about what it was like for them growing up, I'm like, why can't we be like that? If y'all were all close like that, why can't we? Now I get it, because I see the things that they saw as children, but they weren't even processing it as what adults were doing and what was happening, how it really, really impacted us. And so now, one of my family is like, I guess I'm trying to get to a point where I'm trying to get them to understand how we as individuals are great individuals, and we should love to find time to be with each other, rather than focusing on whatever that drop of food coloring was that somebody dropped in the water. Like, I don't know. But it makes me feel like for our kids, and you've said this a number of times, that you want them. I grew up at the part where they were still together before we did the big separation.
With who?
In my family. And you would say, like, I want the kids to experience this family experience that you had, whatever you describe. And I'm like, I don't even know how to get it back, because I don't know how we lost it. Mm-hmm. But in trying to get it back, it's funny, because I talk to my cousins, and when you talk to them, they all want it. They just don't know why we can't do it. They just can't figure out, and there's nobody to kind of pull the matrix back together and stick a pin in it. And so when you're talking about how one line impacted one line, and it's just going from parent to child in your family, I'm thinking of how it went from parent to children to cousins to aunts, and it's like it's poured all over us. Like even for me, I can't relate to certain cousins the way that I think I should, because of something that happened 40, 50 years ago.
So are you a victim of the same thing they're a victim to? Like you?
I think so. And I think that, like when you were talking, you're talking about how parents parent. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about how people were peopling, like, and how it impacted the whole matrix of the family, rather than looking at how it specifically impacted each line.
No, I guess I'm asking, have you allowed it to dictate how you operate when it comes to your family because of the information that your family is like? So how do you do it if you're doing the same thing that they're doing?
Well, no, I think that the difference is that I see it. Not everybody is seeing the same thing. And so it's not that I don't want to interact with my family. Like this year, I'm doing the reunion. And so my approach is going to be different, trying to pull the other people back in. And I may not be successful, but I'm going to try my best. You know what I'm saying? And so I know that I'm limited because of the system that was set up before me, but I am trying to find a workaround. I'll say that because it's none of our fault, not even the people where it might have started. They didn't know they were doing that. They didn't know the impact that they were really going to have.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and all of us that are caught up in it, a lot of the times we've talked about the rat race before. When you're so busy doing you and life is lifing, and you got all kind of stuff going on, you don't have time to be picking apart your family history to figure out why. I have certain cousins that are like, they really are trying to figure out why, and they're frustrated. And they have roadblocks because we lost somebody who had that secret information. You know what I'm saying? There are certain family members that know the entire story, but before we realized that there was a story, they passed away with that information, and we'll never get it back. And I think you even talked about that. There are things that you can't ask your dad about how he grew up and how he perceived everything that was going on. You could only guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
I can't ask my dad because he's no longer living, just for you guys to know.
Yeah. And so I think that's where we are. So I'm trying to find my workaround though. But I do think that my family is held back by things that should have died off a long time ago.
What is the biggest roadblock from preventing that from happening? Like, what is it?
I think life, because now
Just
everybody,
life, okay.
yeah, I think everybody is working and they're raising their own kids, and I think now people create families. Their friends become more of their families because they've moved. When we grew up, a lot of our family was concentrated in the same area. Now people are so big with moving to different states, different countries and stuff. You don't necessarily live down the street from your cousin or around the corner. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy to move for your career or whoever you found, or for college or whatever, and then you set up life somewhere else. And then your friends become your family. And then you're working, getting the kids in their programs or their activities and stuff. Your life is life in full speed. You don't have time to be digging back here and trying to figure this out. And then somebody asks you to break into your vacation time and whatever is going on with you to spend this weekend with people you don't even really like. I don't really even be messing with them like that. I ain't seen them in a while. It would be nice to see them, but I got all this other stuff I need to do.
So how do you change the mindset of people? Because even the way you sounds like nobody should be doing it.
I know. It's like, I want you to do what I know that you probably don't want to do, but I don't know. And that's the thing. I'm trying to think about the age groups of the people that are left. I'm trying to think about who do they relate to the most. Like, we have certain cousin clusters, and so can I grab one of them, and if I can get them, like I talk about this at work, if you can find the champion, then the champion will do the work for you amongst the people that they're with. And so if I can find the champion of this group and the champion of this group, like I have a set of cousins in St. Louis, and I have one cousin that's around my age that I know if I talk to her, I could probably get them. I have, on my dad's side of the family, I have a cluster of women that they meet up from in Detroit. They're my aunts, one of my cousins, and my grandmother. And I know that between them, I could probably find some of the other people that are floating around in Lansing that I can't connect with. And so, and I'm looking at this from both sides. I haven't even touched on my dad's side to even try to be around them. I'm one of those people that's too busy life and to be wherever they are. So even though I'm trying to be the solution on one end, I'm definitely part of the problem in another end. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to find the champions. Who's going to be the champion to get me? I'll never be able to tell you on my dad's side. It might be my Aunt Louise. She'd be the only one.
I'm not going to lie. Like, with my observation of it all, if you guys don't figure it out, it's over. Because I don't see Day and Dallas taking up any of this. I don't see Kari and Cortez taking up any of this. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be like... We're the last line. On my mom's side of the family, my age group is the last line that remembers that part. Like, we're the bridging generation. We remember when we used to all be together, but we're also the ones with the children that know nothing of that. So, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So... I don't know. I guess there was a part, or there was a time where you were really into this, and I was just like, it would be dope. I didn't realize how much work it actually takes to get so many different personalities from so many different walks of life now to like try to rekindle of what a couple generations used to do before, to say this is what we're gonna do.
Well, what's crazy is we went to a reunion in August in Chicago. And there were a few of us that came from Michigan, and it was about 30 of us total there. And at that reunion, the ones that came from Michigan, they're all my first cousins. So I was like, we should do something in Lansing, not just with this family, the family that fits this, but just my grandmother's children, because this is all coming from 3 kids. So just my grandmother's children, let's just see if we all can get together. When we all got together, we had over 30 people. We had the same amount of people who we got from the entire group. Like, my grandmother had 3 children. Her sister had 1. Her brother had 7. And some of them out of the 7 had a good number of kids as well. So it gives you an idea of the expanse of the family members I have. But we had the same amount, if not more, people show up out of my grandmother's family in one city than we did pulling everybody into one city. And so that lets you know that, imagine if we tried to pull, even a piece of my great uncle's family together, or, you know what I'm saying? So I can see the potential if you have somebody that champions. So I was the champion of my grandmother's grandchildren. And all I needed was, there are only a few women that I have to call, and then they get everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so I see the blueprint of how to do it. And I just need to figure out how to do it on a larger scale. And even so, like, I've talked to, your cousin, I talked to Rakia about, when we talked about it years ago, and you were like, I would love to do something like that. She was like, yeah, but I think it's the champion. You got to find the people who are the pin in that part of the matrix that hold everybody together. And then if you can find them, then you get them on board. Then it's like, it's a ripple effect, but it's hard to figure it out. And you need to have somebody who cares enough to take the time to do it. And now it's all a matter of a text message. Look, I told my family, I said, hey, we're going to do something. I'm going to send you a doodle poll, and everybody put your availability on it, and it's going to tell me what day is the best day. We got technology now where I can send out a poll to find out your availability. So it's like, it's not hard. You just have to have somebody who wants to. But that's my side.
Execution also.
Yeah. But when it comes to your side, I think that you've really turned around the parenting streak of your family. The way I feel about your oldest sister and how she relates to our niece, I think that she's completely different. But of course, she had her mother. It's different when you come, like when your mother is not a part of the primary caregiver is not a part of, that line. Do you think that it's something that can be taught to, like, your sister is coming straight from the line? Do you think at some point she will learn that?
No. I think she'll be a lot older and the kids will be grown, but I just don't think that life is slowed down enough for her to recognize the role that she was supposed to actually actually be in. Mm-hmm. Like she had so many different hats. And, when you do something for so long, you think you're good in it, but you don't realize you just got a bunch of bad habits and you still got that title. Like, like you can be a mother, but there's different levels to being a mother. And if your life is filled with chaos, not chaos that you've created, but the chaos that you grew up in, you don't realize a certain aspect of parenting because it just never crossed your plate. And you don't have the patience to go learn, like, what can I do to become better? Because you've been doing it for so long, you think this is what it looks like. Yeah. So when I say that, I hate that I haven't been able to be more of a voice or a supporting hand for her to get a handle on this parenting thing. And, she's been doing it for some time, but she started at such a young age that, she shouldn't even have that responsibility. Mm-hmm. But, I just don't see it happening. And what I do hope is that she and I create a better relationship where we can still guide her kids so that we don't have to keep worrying about this cycle. Because the cycle is going to happen just because of the impact of how she grew up and how she thinks life is actually going. Yeah. So hopefully, our influence can kind of curve some of the behavior so that they can get on track. But it's really difficult when you just think that's the life you live.
Yeah, and I think it just goes across when we were talking about, I don't know what we were talking about before, but I said, sometimes you're so busy trying to live and keep everything together. You don't have time to be processing it. You don't have time to sit down and
especially if nobody tells you, hey, you really need to focus on this part right here.
But that's not important because I got to make sure that I get this check.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody who's talking to you don't talk the same language. It just sounds a bunch of mess. Like, look, I've been doing this.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not even hopeful because I know how much work it actually takes. Look, I know how it took for me to get here.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that life.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to be right here, and Lord knows I'm working on communication, so she's not going to receive anything as of right now. But I hate that I didn't start this sooner because I felt like maybe the right words could have helped her journey, even for like her kids, because they only know what they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to, before we get out of here, I wanted to ask you, what is your best relationship advice for these single people out here? And the reason why I'm asking you is because the messaging that I'm getting from relationships, like things that work, and I was wondering, being in a relationship from, the last 20, 22 years, what is the best piece of advice you can give to somebody considering being in a relationship with somebody?
My biggest suggestion would be pursue someone based on what they're presenting to you. Do not pursue them based on potential of what could be, what you dream of being. All we need to do, all she got to do, if this happens. Because if it never does, are you gonna be happy? That's the question. If nobody ever changes, if nothing ever changes, if it's exactly the same, are you gonna love they dirty draws just the way that you do right now? Last night I was telling John, I was looking at him and, he's smiling and he's talking to me, and a glimpse of me remembering how I saw him when I was 20. And like, I probably, if the dude talked fast enough, I probably would have walked off the bridge if he told me to. And now I look at him and there's an actual foundation to why I look at him the way that I do. I'm definitely growing in a different way. And a lot of the reason why I made him into this amazing person, it wasn't because that was who he was presenting to me. It was all of the potential of what I saw when we got together and what it was going to be. And once I'm everything I want to be, and once he's everything he can be, and it wasn't even anything that he said he wanted to be anyway. It was what I had decided he could be.
It's ignorance of man, though.
I think the biggest thing I would say is whoever you're with, if they never change, is that going to be the person that you'll be like, yes?
You're definitely talking about I don't want to say the woman in the relationship, but
No,
because men don't want to change. They want the woman to remain the same.
Yeah. But this is the thing. When you grow up, because when you're dating somebody in your 20s, you're not even your full self yet.
Correct.
So when you grow up, is this person going to fit the grown-up you? And I think that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Even when you're in your 30s or your 40s, sometimes we still got people who are looking at potential. They're not looking at what's actually being presented.
Distracted.
Well, and I think that you want love and you love who the person is, but I don't think we always even process the fact that what we see them as isn't even exactly who they are. Sometimes we sprinkle a little potential on top of them and they look even more glittery and fun.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing was when you grow up and you are your full self, will this still fit? Sometimes the person doesn't even fit your grown-up self. Who you wanted at 20 is not who you want at 35. But I think you have a better chance if the person as they are fits who you want. Because what you see as the potential could not even be in a their idea of what they want.
Yeah.
I had a friend, she really liked this guy, and she was like, Kanika, together we could do this. And he said that he was interested in this, and I can get him hooked up with the, small business association, and we're going to do this and do this and do this and do this. And she had a whole plan for this dude. Now, fast forward, they end up not being together, and none of what she envisioned was anything that he chose to do. That wasn't his path.
Yeah.
But to her, he was glittery and shiny, and all the things they could be as a power couple. That wasn't in his plan.
Yeah.
And imagine making it work, and then finding out that every plan you had was never come to fruition at all.
Wasn't even a part of the destiny.
At least let it be that he tells you his plan and it fits what you want or you like it. Don't imagine it yourself. And that's the same for he as in her. Like, flip the script. If she says that this is what she plans on being, let it be what she says she plans on being, and you see it going in that direction. Don't let it be what you've already decided.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it even goes, I think there was somebody we know in our group that he was dating somebody, and she was wild. And he envisioned that when they got together, she wouldn't be. And then it was going to be great because the wild parts of her were exciting for him, but he wanted to tame it down into this monogamous relationship wild. Yeah. And when they got together, that was not
in her plans.
Yeah, that wasn't in her plans, but that was the potential that he saw, maximizing off of these characteristics he really liked about her, but we're going to morph it a little bit to fit this.
What he wanted.
But that wasn't her plan.
Yeah.
And it ended up not going well. And so I say, partner with the reality and not with the potential.
Yes. I can dig that. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that people just need to do a better job with interviewing the people before they allow things that initiate emotions, like sex, kissing. Like, why would you kiss somebody that you're not for sure this is the person you want to invest in?
Because they lips be looking good.
Again, you kiss somebody like, girl, he kissed so good and the way he touched me, but he has a lot of bad behaviors. So You're allowing this feeling to compensate, because when that feeling's gone, you're going to understand why you didn't like the behaviors. And I just feel like if we treated our life like a business and interviewed only the qualified people that deserve to be in your life versus them putting on a suit and tricking you, and he was like, oh my gosh, he has a shirt and tie on, he's ready for this interview, and then he opens his mouth and it's like, wah 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 wah. He's like, oh, I didn't know he talked like that. But he looks so good in that suit. You know what I'm saying? So interview your people.
No, what's funny is they always did talk like that, but you couldn't see your friend black girl, he was always like this.
Yeah.
Like
he was like, he got a degree. He dressed nice.
That'll catch you.
He got a job, and he still is talking like, wah, 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 wah. And he comes from like a troubled background. I'm not saying that people don't come from troubled backgrounds, but you have to know the amount of work you're going to have to do to get it to where you wanted to get it.
That's true.
But that's what I need you guys to do. But y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA, get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose. Boom.